Chris Doummit, the man who held Parker Schnabel's entire gold mining empire together for over 10 years, is gone. He didn't just quit, he walked away from a job that nearly broke him, leaving a hole in the crew that might never be filled. Everyone thinks it was just burnout, but that's the cover story. The real reason involves a massive disagreement that happened behind closed doors, a secret the show would never air. For years, Chris Doummit was the unbreakable rock of Parker Schnabel's crew. He was the calm in every storm, the steady hand in the gold room who turned mud into millions. But in season 15, that rock finally started to crack. The pressure had been building for years. But this season, Parker's ambition pushed Chris past his absolute limit. It all started when Parker decided to do something no one thought was possible. He decided to run 3 separate wash plants at the same time. On paper, it was a genius move to get more gold. In reality, it created a nightmare for the man in charge of collecting that gold. Suddenly, Chris wasn't just running one gold room. He was responsible for the cleanups at 3 different sites, and these sites weren't close to each other. One of the plants was a full 15 miles away from the others. This meant Chris was constantly on the move, driving back and forth across the Klondike, trying to be in 3 places at once. The workload was insane. A normal cleanup is a long, tough job. It involves pulling heavy mats, washing them down, and carefully collecting every single flake of gold. Now Chris had to do that for 3 massive plants several times a week. He was working longer hours than ever before, under more stress than ever before. The camera showed him looking tired and annoyed. He was stretched thin and he knew it wasn't sustainable. He told Parker he needed help. That one man couldn't possibly keep up with the work of 3 operations. What made this even worse was Chris's history with physical pain. Many fans know that Chris has struggled with serious back problems for years. It's the very reason he moved off the heavy equipment and into the gold room in the first place. Driving rock trucks and loaders caused him so much pain that he simply couldn't do it anymore. The gold room was supposed to be a less physically demanding job. But now Parker's new plan had him driving all over the claims and doing the heavy lifting of 3 cleanups. His body just couldn't take it. He was in pain. He was exhausted, and he was being pushed to the edge. The unstoppable drive for gold had met a human limit. And that limit was Chris Doummit. He had given everything to the mine, and now he had nothing left to give. But was the backbreaking work the only reason he finally said enough is enough? Or was there something much bigger happening behind the scenes? A conflict that the cameras never showed you? The story the show tells is one of burnout. A loyal soldier who simply couldn't handle the pressure anymore. But sources close to the operation whisper about a different story, a much more dramatic one. The real reason Chris left wasn't just about the workload. It was a bombshell that involved a massive financial disagreement and a fundamental clash in values between the old school miner and his young millionaire boss. As Parker's empire grew from a small family operation into a multi-million-dollar business, the dynamic on the crew began to change. The friendly, tight-knit group was becoming more like a corporation, and with that change came new pressures. Parker's goal was bigger than ever, chasing a staggering 40 million in gold. To get there, he had to push his crew and his equipment harder than ever before. This is where the clash in values began. For Chris, a man in his late 50s, life was about more than just the next gold way. He valued his health, his well-being, and a fair day's work for a fair day's pay. For Parker, a young man driven by record-breaking goals, the focus was on numbers, efficiency, and pushing every single limit to maximize profit. Theramore is that Chris felt his loyalty and hard work were being taken for granted. He was the backbone of the operation, yet he was being run into the ground without the support he needed. This led to a heated debate behind closed doors about loyalty and what it's truly worth. Was loyalty about sticking with the crew no matter the personal cost, or was it about being loyal to yourself and your own health? Chris was pushed into a corner. He saw the operation becoming a toxic work environment, where their relentless pursuit of gold was more important than the people digging it out of the ground. He chose himself. He decided that his sanity and his health were more valuable than any pile of gold. His quiet exit wasn't just a retirement. It was an act of defiance against a system that he felt had lost its way. This kind of betrayal, whether real or just felt, has become a theme on the show. Crew members have switched sides before, breaking alliances and causing huge drama. Chris's departure created a massive debate among fans. Some felt he was completely right to leave a job that was destroying him. Others felt he owed Parker his loyalty after all the years they had worked together. But to understand why this decision was so huge, you have to go back to the very beginning, to a time when Chris Doummit wasn't even a gold miner at all. Before Chris Doummit was a legend in the Klondike, he was a carpenter from Oregon. For 25 years, he worked as a plant carpenter, a skilled tradesman who knew how to build things to last. His journey into the world of gold mining happened completely by accident. In 2010, the very first season of Gold Rush, Chris was hired by the Hoffman crew for a simple 10-day job to build a cabin on their claim. That 10-day job changed his life forever. He arrived at the claim and immediately got caught up in the wild, chaotic world of the Hoffmans. He ended up staying not for 10 days, but for 5 months. During that time, he learned how to mine gold through pure trial and error. The Hoffman crew was famous for its constant setbacks, broken machinery, and risky plans that rarely worked out. It was a messy, disorganized operation, but for Chris, it was a crash course in gold mining. He saw firsthand how not to ruin a mine. After his time with the Hoffmans, Chris knew he loved the hunt for gold, but he needed a more stable crew. That's when he found Parker Schnabel. In Season 4, Chris joined Parker's crew, and it was a perfect match. Parker was the complete opposite of Todd Hoffman. He was young, disciplined, and focused on efficiency. Chris, having survived the chaos of the Hoffman years, immediately appreciated Parker's professional approach. He fell into a groove quickly and became one of Parker's most essential team members. This background is what made Chris so valuable to Parker. He wasn't just another skilled operator. He was a veteran who had seen the other side. Heck knew what failure looked like up close, and he understood the importance of doing things the right way. He wasn't just there to run a machine. He was there to help build a stable, successful mining operation from the ground up. He had a perspective that no one else on the crew had, and this shared understanding of what it takes to succeed in the Klondike forged an incredibly strong bond between the old carpenter and the young mining prodigy. It was a bond that would soon become the very heart of Parker's entire empire. The relationship between Chris Doummit and Parker Schnabel was more than just a boss and his employee. Over the years, it grew into something much deeper, like a father and son. Chris wasn't just the gold room guy. He was Parker's mentor, his confidant, and the moral compass for the entire crew. This became especially true after Parker's beloved grandfather, John Schnabel, passed away. Chris stepped into that role, offering quiet wisdom and steady guidance to a young man carrying the weight of a growing empire on his shoulders. Whenever Parker was stressed out or frustrated, he would go to Chris. Chris would patiently listen, let him vent, and then offer a few words of advice that always seemed to calm him down. He had a way of looking at the big picture, of reminding Parker what was truly important. He balanced his respect for Parker's authority with a genuine uncle-like concern for his well-being. He was the steady, positive force that kept the team motivated even when things went wrong. He would crack jokes, keep the mood light, and focus on finding solutions instead of blaming people for problems. But the ultimate proof of their bond, the one thing that shows the incredible level of trust between them, has to do with the gold room itself. The gold room is the heart of the entire operation. It's where millions of dollars in raw gold are handled every single week. Any other mine owner would have that room filled with security cameras, watching every single move. But Parker never did. In a behind-the-scenes moment, Parker was asked if he ever considered putting cameras in the gold room. His answer spoke volumes. He said that if Chris Doummit ever retired, then he would think about installing cameras. That single statement shows everything. Parker trusted Chris so completely, so absolutely, that he didn't need cameras. He knew that as long as Chris was in that room, every single ounce of gold was safe. To install a camera would have been an insult to their relationship. This incredible trust, however, may have also been a curse. Parker saw Chris not just as an employee, but as an unbreakable pillar of his operation. He put so much faith in him that he might not have seen the strain Chris was under. The trust itself became another form of pressure. Chris wasn't just tired from the work. He was carrying the responsibility of millions of dollars and the unwavering faith of a young man who saw him as family. When he finally reached his breaking point, it wasn't just about his aching back. It was about the fear of failing that immense trust. The greatest compliment Parker ever gave him may have been the very thing that added to the burden that became too heavy to carry. And it was a burden he didn't have to carry, because unlike many on the crew, Chris had a whole life waiting for him beyond the gold fields. To truly understand why Chris Doummit could walk away from one of the most successful gold mines in the world, you have to look at his life outside the Klondike. His decision wasn't an act of desperation. It was a choice made by a man who had other passions and a stable life to return to. Unlike some of the younger crew members whose entire lives revolved around the mining season, Chris had options. For 45 years, Chris has been married to his wife Sharon. Together they have 2 children and have built a strong family life far away from the mud and machinery of the Yukon. During the long cold off-season, Chris and Sharon don't stick around in the north. They escape to the warm, sunny weather of Palm Springs, California. It's a place where Chris can relax and recharge. He loves to go fishing, play golf, and just have some space to breathe. But Chris is more than just a family man with a few hobbies. He's also a sharp businessman. His love for a good cigar is well known to any fan of Gold Rush. He's almost never seen without one. But what many people don't know is that he turned that passion into a successful business. He co-founded his own cigar brand called Doummit Gold Cigars. The company Tradesman Cigar Company sells a whole line of cigars with names like the D10 Gentle Giant and the Oro Negro. He proudly promotes his brand on the show, and it has become aerial success with retail locations across the United States, and cigars aren't his only venture. Chris is also a wine connoisseur. He loves fine wines so much that he started making his own, which he lovingly named Huge. He's a man of many talents, a carpenter, a marksman, a gold miner, and an entrepreneur. His net worth is estimated to be around $600,000, and he earns about $25,000 for each episode of Gold Rush he appears in. All of this paints a picture of a man who didn't need Parker's mine to survive. He had a loving family, a comfortable life in the sun, and his own successful businesses. He had the financial and personal freedom to prioritize his own happiness. When the job started to take a toll on his health and his spirit, he had the strength and the means to walk away. He was in a position of power. He could choose his own well-being over another man's empire, but the story doesn't end there. There is one final shocking rumor that turns his departure from a simple choice into an act of ultimate betrayal. In the tight-knit, high-stakes world of Klondike gold mining, loyalty is everything. Crews are like families, and bosses are like generals leading their troops into battle. Leaving your crew is a big deal, but leaving your crew to join your biggest rival, that's an act of war. And that is the final explosive rumor surrounding Chris Doummit's departure. The story is that he didn't just quit. He left Parker Schnabel to join Rick Ness's team. If this rumor is true, it changes everything. It turns Asad goodbye into a shocking betrayal. For over a decade, Chris was Parker's most trusted man. He was the keeper of the secrets, the man who knew the operation inside and out. To take that knowledge and experience to a rival camp would be unthinkable. It would feel less like a career change and more like a knife in the back. Rick Ness and Parker Schnabel have a long and complicated history. They are competitors always fighting for the best ground, the best crew, and the biggest gold totals. For Chris to switch sides would be a massive power move in the Klondike. It would give Rick a huge advantage and deal a serious blow to Parker, not just to his operation, but to his pride. No one saw it coming. The idea of Chris Doummit, the father figure of Parker's crew, wearing a different hat and working for the competition seemed impossible. But in the world of Gold Rush, where fortunes are made and lost every season, alliances are always shifting. Whether this rumor is true or just a dramatic story created for television, its existence shows just how deeply Chris's departure was felt. It wasn't just the loss of a good worker. It was the end of an era. It shook the foundation of Parker's crew and left everyone wondering what could possibly happen next. The calm, steady man who held everything together was gone, and in his place was a story of betrayal that would be talked about in the Klondike for years to come. In the end, the real reason Chris Doummit left Parker Schnabel is a story about limits. In their relentless chase for millions of dollars in gold, he found the one more valuable thing. He found his own peace. He traded the security of a gold mining empire for the sanity of a quieter life. After years of giving his all to another man's dream, he chose himself. In the high-stakes world of Gold Rush, where every ounce is counted, Chris Doummit walked away with the only treasure that truly matters, a reason to keep going on his own terms.